Um,
I'm talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on three. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Off Tackle with John Fina show. My name is Joe Miller, and that bright-looking, handsome man next to me is none other than John Fina. This show is brought to you by Q42 Barbecue, and we're really excited to have them on as a sponsor. John, how you feeling?
How am I feeling about Q42?
How you feeling about this football game? We'll start with the football game. I'm wearing black because I'm in mourning. That is not true, but I just happen to be wearing.
I'm wearing Eddie's infantry because I'm feeling optimistic about young Eddie.
Very good.
Trying to feel optimistic. I'm a little scarred from the result of last night's game, so I'm still getting over it a little bit too.
Yeah, you gave me a ton of confidence before we're getting started kind of early, just because you texted me at halftime and you're like, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "A little bit," and you're like, "I'm not." And that I immediately went back to the Steelers game last year when you texted me at halftime and you're like, "The Bills got this in the bag." I was like, John knows something. He knows something. So I was like, I feel better now.
Well, McDermott's always texting me the game plan and the moves, so I do have kind of an inside look at what's happening.
That's hysterical. So
Thanks, Sean.
Let's just welcome everybody one more time. The Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. Excited to have you guys with us as we're going to talk about this Buffalo Bills versus Titans football game where the Buffalo Bills lost to the Titans 34-31 in what was a very, very hard fought football game. It was for the rest of America. This was a great football game, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the NFL has been incredibly exciting over the past few weeks. I mean, the number of overtime games that went on this weekend, even, I think, by and large, the teams that were favored to win did win most of the time. The games are great. The NFL is putting a great product out there, I think, for the most part.
Yes, and I would agree, too. A lot of the primetime games, which normally are stinkers, have all been really, really good. A lot of overtime games, a lot of back
Sunday night games have been incredible.
Yeah, they've been super, super good. So, as we said, do you have that read by chance? We might as well, let's do the read. So we are brought to you by Q42, and John is going to do the read tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do the read. Hey, Grills Mafia, let's talk about Q42 and their authentic barbecue sauces. First, there's the KC style sauce, which is totally fine. Slather on your barbecued ribs at the tailgate before the Bills dominate on Sundays. And then the Carolina inspired mustard sauce. I love this one on chicken. To be frank, I had it before. Iman gave it to me. I really enjoyed it and sent him a little video message. So if you're looking for an endorsement, then my friend is a real one. Just like both of these sauces are made with real ingredients, just like real Western New York honey, made by real Western New Yorkers, by the way. Get some today for your next party, family dinner, or Bill's tailgate. Order at Q42barbecue.com. Make sure you use the sweet Fina Show code and get 15% off your offer. What's that?
I'm pointing at the Fina Show thing.
Oh, it's right down there. Yeah, right. Okay, sorry. I got it angled that way. Yeah, so it's Fina Show. It will get you 15% off your order. It'll be worth it. You're going to be supporting a local Western New Yorker, which I am always a huge fan of supporting local business. And Iman's a great guy.
Iman is a good guy. And it's the cool thing about this, in case anybody missed it prior to last week or when we talked about it last week, Buffalo's in the 42nd parallel. So that's where the 42 comes from. So Q, barbecue, 42, the 42nd parallel, which is kind of neat. But I actually used it last night. So I got the rub. And I got the sauce, the KC sauce. We put the rub on the chicken first. I grilled it and then put the barbecue sauce on it. It was freaking fantastic.
I just got my delivery, and things have been a little crazy around here. So I'm gonna plan on putting it out and like take some really like sexy shots, and post that to my social media. If I knew how to use Instagram, I'd put it on that too, but I clearly have no ability there. So you'll see it on Twitter.
Like you said, we'll wrap up the Q42 segment with this. It's good stuff, and he's a good dude. So yeah, if you're interested in trying a new barbecue sauce or Carolina sauce, which that's really good too, go to q42barbecue.com or bbq.com. Put in Fina Show, 15% off. You'll enjoy it. And we've actually had, even from last week, we've had some listeners order it up, and they've enjoyed it, which was really, really cool. So let's talk about this football game, and I suppose we're going to start where we always start, which is effectively. Just our thoughts on the game, and the point of the thoughts on the game are this: it's just what we thought was going to happen, our expectations of the football game, which wildly were different than what we got versus what we did end up getting. And I would say this: if anybody has a question for John, we'll do our best to get to it. If you super chat it, I'll absolutely get to it. But feel free if you've got questions about a play, if you've got questions about something that happened, whatever, you just want to ask a question in general. We will get to a couple of different film clips. We're going to get to more and more and more of those every week as the season goes on, as we're just kind of still figuring out how to do the video clip thing. But what were your thoughts on this football game?
Well, I think with this football team, we expect to win every game. You're not going to win every game.
Right.
So we all agreed on that. I listened to your great pregame show with the fellas. And what I thought was a really cool segment you had at the end is we always talk about what we have to do to win, but never about what they have to do to beat us.
Right.
Which, was a cool twist thinking about it in that direction. Frankly, my thoughts in the game, the two disappointing aspects of it were our quarterback play and our defensive line play. But I didn't think they were going to lay down. There's something about playing down there. I'm not going to say snake bit, but it doesn't matter. They're going to fight hard. It's like a divisional game, usually. I mean, the games that, you guys remember from the days past playing Miami, even the Jets, they get up. This game it's not a lock.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I expected a hard fought game, and we got it.
Yeah, it for me, and we've talked about it before. The game from your era, or the teams, were the Chiefs and the Steelers. And you've said several times that the Steelers were different because Jim was always a little more nervous being the team that he grew up loving. But it seemed like the Chiefs and the Steelers just always played us that way. As much as interdivisional games, the Jets, the Colts back then, the Patriots and the Dolphins were always hard, and they'd go back and forth. It just seemed like the Chiefs and the Steelers were this Titans team for us. Like every team seems to have a nemesis outside of the division, and it looks like that Titans team is kind of that. You said it, a rivalry building.
Yeah, and I think that everyone in Bills Mafia has to remember now. I remember when I got to Buffalo, it was like you had a target on your back. That was it. Everybody wanted to be the giant killer, so you were going to get their best game every game out. And we have to start approaching this the same way, because our team is good, highly ranked, powerful offense. So you're going to get the best out of every team. Now, obviously, we clobbered a few teams, but teams that have good coaching, good players, and are resilient and have a history of winning, especially recent history of winning, they're always going to be able to kind of tap into that.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be tough. I mean, few people called for blowouts, but I don't think I made any predictions. So now I'll predict going backwards that it's going to be really close.
That game was strange for me. It definitely did not come out any way that I thought. At one point in time the week before, I said I think the Bills could potentially put 50 on them in that football game because that defense was just not good. To the point, and they're injured. They're riddled with injury last night in that game. At one point, they had 3 healthy defensive backs, which when you're 4 deep at wide receiver, you've got a weapon at tight end and a quarterback that likes to chuck the ball over the field. You think that that's big time advantage Buffalo Bills. What's wild about it is I honestly believe we could have got the game that we all thought had the Bills scored 2 touchdowns on those first 2 drives. You're halfway in the first quarter, 14-0. That game is totally different.
Totally different game. And additionally, you think about it, that's the 2 red zone drives that ended in field goals. And beyond that, they had a few defensive plays, but they weren't marvelous on defense. They
No.
didn't do anything fantastic. They caught basically what ended up being a punt from Josh's interception.
Right.
But and we did score a reasonable amount of points. We didn't behave very well defensively. We put ourselves in a bad position with that pick.
Yeah, that was what? That was Spencer Brown, right? So Spencer Brown allowed his guy, I don't have video clip of that. I should have queued that up.
Yeah, it's curious. I watched that play a couple times, and he just short armed the guy. When you're pass protecting, we talked about this extension. This like 80% arm extension, and if you go back and look at that, his outside arm, his right arm, was really soft, and he ended up giving the edge quick like that. He's got those long arms. Even if he misses at full extension, he's got a better chance to recover, or at least make the guy run the hump a little bit harder. And he was able to collapse it and turn that into a short angle, and that obviously affected the throw. It's probably his worst play of the game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's we'll get into benefits of a bye week later, but that was a big play for him.
Yeah, and as entertaining as that football game was for people around the country and pretty much everybody but Bills fans, it's weird to me because the game was never out of reach for us. And in fact, there was a point in the game where we could have put it away and been up by 2 possessions.
I really felt it.
And we've heard Josh Allen have to say this before in pressers after games where I just felt like I had to get it all right there. I felt like I wanted to end the game right there, and I need to be more disciplined. I need to take what the defense gives me. And he just didn't. Like they got the first down, and then he drops back, and nobody knows what he's looking for. There's a dude open in the flat. There's a dude open in the intermediate route, and he's just glued downfield until he gets sacked. Second and 17. Obviously he chucks that ball, forced it into double coverage. It's almost picked off. Third down, he throws that duck that should have been shot out of the air, out of bounds. They're punting, and that was the game. The game was right there on a platter.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that since we talked earlier, and part of that could be we've mentioned all the injuries that happened in the secondary. So in your mind, you want to be the quarterback that exposes players that are fresh off the sideline. So that could have been part of his thinking, taking those shots.
Yeah.
Let's skip on the segment thoughts of the game. My God, I'm just reeling. I'm living it all over again.
That's funny. Well, there's a couple questions I can throw up here. Obviously, we're going to get to this play. What does John think of the holds on the Henry touchdown? I think for the most part, you're pretty much burnt out on that one because it's been all over social media today, and I'm culprit number one. Of putting it out there on social media, bringing whatchamacallit, just awareness to it. This is good. What did you think of? I
want to address that too. That was a super
chat,
right? So who was that?
It was Scott Brown.
Hey Scott. So there's a rub on this kind of thing, right? So you look at where the back judge was positioned, and Micah Hyde could have obscured the view, but there were two holds on the play, right? One on Tre'Davious White, in addition to the obvious one on Poyer, which was a tackle.
Right.
So the question to me doesn't become how does he miss it or what have you. It's what's your job as a back judge on a running play when the entire secondary is up where the front seven is? Why aren't you looking for that? So that to me is kind of like a referendum on the officials. Like they need to address that. This is your job. You are the back judge. You're looking between the tackles. And we all look for the jersey tug, and then once you start to see the side of the shoulder, should have been an easy call. So we've kicked it to death, but I want to know why. How come the official? First of all, why isn't the back judge coming up from that depth?
There's the picture right there.
And you can see right there. Once a guy's shoulder starts curling in like that, that's bad. That's bad.
And you thought when we talked earlier today that Micah Hyde blocked the frame like that. So
he did a little bit earlier,
right?
From the end zone view behind the offense, but from this view, it just makes it even worse.
And he gets literally rolled around. You can't see his glove because it's the same color as that offensive lineman's pants, but his hand is right there. And then Poyer gets rolled around and tackled, and basically squashed on the ground. And it's just, it was just not great as far as that goes. It just wasn't great. But that's a question. There's another question here I'll throw up real quick, which is what was your thoughts on the Bills run blocking in this football game?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. There were a couple of negative yardage plays, and I just had a chance to review one of them, and it really wasn't the offensive line. Some of the sets that we run with a wing position, and we use our receivers to block quite a bit. So, there was a failure out in space on non-offensive line type players. So everybody just has to get better. By and large, though, I mean, when we needed a good run, we got them. You and I, you went off on why do we run the ball a little bit, but you also answered your own question. When you take away Henry's touchdown run, his average drops to like 3.3 yards a carry or 3.5 yards a carry, and if you take the other only really decent run that he had, it drops down to like 2.7.
Right.
So it works the same in reverse too. If you take away two of the negative yardage plays that we had, our average goes up considerably. So
I thought
it was okay. I didn't think it was great. That defensive front was better than the last couple that we faced.
Sure. I think for me I agree that we need to run the ball more effectively, not more. Wholeheartedly agree, especially to Jay Spencer King's point that he makes all the time in the playoffs. The run game is important in the playoffs. Balance is important on both sides of the ball, as well as, between the two phases, on offense. The problem that I have is it seems like they're running the ball in obvious times, which makes no sense to me, number one. So they're running draw plays in 1st and 10, draw plays in 2nd and 8, and they're just not going anywhere. And then the other thing for me that I think I find most frustrating, and I ranted on it a little bit in yesterday's show, in the post-game show, was they give the ball early. They always start the game with Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary's the back in the first half. And Devin Singletary, 3 out of the 6 games, 4 of the six games, seemed like he had a hot hand. And last night was no different. The 5 carries he had, or whatever it was, he averaged almost 6 yards a carry, was running all over the place. And then, sure enough, the second half, they bring in Zach Moss, and Zach Moss is stumbling after 1.5 yards. And I don't.
Yeah, it's really weird with those two. I mean, some games Zach ends up being the better runner, and the others it's Devin. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't understand the change. I know Zach is a kind of a player they put into situational player. It's hard to know.
Yeah,
it really is. And unless he comes up, Devin Singletary comes up on an injury report, or he's been nursing something that we don't know about, then, we'll never understand that decision.
I guess the question is for me, and I'm asking myself this more than I'm asking you this, but isn't it possible to still be run or pass first, right? So everything that we saw in 2020, use the pass to set up the run and just be more effective in the run. So not change necessarily. I don't mean schemes, but not change necessarily your numbers, your ratios from last year. Still be the guy that's throwing the ball all over the football field. But when you do run it like you did last year, be better at it. Why does being more effective mean, well, that means I have to run on first down now, even though they're expecting it?
Well, yeah, I mean, but let's be fair. I was charting out the first drive, and I didn't chart it all out. But on the first drive before the field goal, two of the 6 first down plays, let's say it was a Beasley pass, Diggs pass, Josh Allen scramble, Josh Allen keep, and then Devin Singletary run. Mm-hmm. So that there's balance there. Yeah. I didn't really chart it out, but the answer to your question is, yeah, if it works. I mean,
yeah.
I think what the problem, though, Joe, is you always want to establish the run early, or at least a run look, so you can use play action, which has been reasonably effective for us. That's point number one. Point number two is you don't just flip a switch and run the ball like Spence and I want to in the playoffs. You got to work it. You got to practice it. So
yeah, it makes sense. We need to jump over to the good. So I'm going to let you go first, even though you went first on the last one too, and then I'll go first on the what we need work in the next segment. But what was the good in this football game for you?
Well, I think by and large, our secondary played really good. I think our linebacker play was solid from Tremaine Edmonds' standpoint on the defensive side of the ball. The kicking game, our returns would have been fantastic despite, Andre Smith's holding penalty. So that's not bad. We kicked the ball reasonably well, and no issues there with Bass. Offensively, our receivers were pretty damn good.
Yeah,
you can't argue with that. I think the offensive line was passable. They had a couple struggles. I did go back and looked at that play we talked about earlier, and it was a game between Morse and Feliciano, where Morse didn't get the depth that we talked about, so they couldn't exchange the game between the rushing linebacker and the down lineman. But really, those are my takeaways. That was the good. And I know people are screaming at me right now. Josh had 68% completion,
74.
But he doesn't fall into that cat. I mean, it was okay because of what we'll talk about when we go to needs work.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you on the same level as me, or are you going to add a little wrinklet?
Rinklets. No, I mean, the best part about this football game to me was the competitive nature of it. Anytime the Buffalo Bills are going to lose a football game, I would prefer the wheels don't come off and we don't lay an egg, right? I would rather lose. I went back and forth. This game for me ended not exactly like the Hail Murray pass did, where I was just standing there stunned in silence, but it was a close second. Like when Josh walks up to the line 4th and 6 inches, and in my mind, it's automatic. It's almost 3rd and 17. Josh, 3rd and 17, for the most part, usually that we got that play in our bag. If it's 4th and 6 inches, to me, that's like Josh Allen moneymaker right there. Like that's what he does. So I was overly confident that he was going to get that 6 inches, if not score on the play. And literally my head was forward. My brain was already in the kickoff. Like, how do we do this without leaving any time on the kickoff? Because God knows they've already tried the home run throwback in this stupid game. And I don't want to have this thing repeat itself and it happen again to us, especially after McKenzie just ran one back for a touchdown that got called back, unfortunately. The competitiveness of this game for me was probably the best thing about it. The fact that it was back and forth. It was a slugfest. The Bills didn't give up. Obviously, I feel lost in just that one sequence, the drive before the last drive that the Bills had and we already talked about it. I don't understand what was going on there and why Dable wasn't in his ear. Just like, look to the flat, bro. Look to the flat. I mean, he's right to 15 seconds. I think he can talk to him. Good stuff. I loved Tremaine Edmonds playing this football game. I thought Tremaine Edmonds continued to have a solid game. No, he is not a disruptor. He is not a havoc wreaker. He's not the guy that's going to completely blow up another team's offense, but he is vital to what's happening on this football team on defense.
You say that, but I don't think that's what this league really needs anymore. I mean, you need a guy that can support the run, but also has the range to play in that 5 to 12 yard drop area. That's the biggest problem. Like if I was reincarnated to play football again, the last position I would want to play on the field is linebacker. It's expectation that you can run like a deer and cover these guys, but also step up and take on huge offensive linemen and tackle guys like Derrick Henry. And he really kind of mashes both of those together as well as anybody that we see playing football today. And then with the complement of Milano being able to, rush, that leaves him in the secondary, even though, Milano's success in the last game wasn't great, but that's where Tremaine lives. Yeah. And he does it well.
Yeah.
And it provides almost like a linebacker DB.
Yeah. Richard Rush asked a question, and I'm just going to do it for clarification. That play that you were talking about where Mongo was passing off to Morse, that's the one where Josh Allen got sacked, right? So Feliciano moved his man, and then Morse got spun around and then ended up chasing the defensive lineman to Josh Allen. Yes?
Yeah, exactly. That was the play. And the part about the play that's really hard is you've got this, you've got the guy at the line of scrimmage and you've got a backer coming. And you really, you had the tackle come into Feliciano's shoulder,
right?
And then the linebacker came upfield. The problem was something kept Morse at the line of scrimmage while Feliciano was going back. So as Morse is sitting at the line and Feliciano is coming back, when that tackle presses the inside shoulder, Morse can't really take him over in front of him, right? So as a center, I want to come back and be able to reach my hand out and pull this guy into me. But instead, he's on his back shoulder. So now Feliciano is taking the linebacker who's got some good speed, and he's penetrating that gap. or sorry, the defensive tackle's penetrating that gap. And Feliciano's like, take him, because I have to leave and go get this guy. But Morse couldn't take him over because he didn't have enough depth.
Yeah.
So we used to call that sugaring. Don't get sugared at the line. So if you've got a guy on you, especially a guard or a center, and you come up to pass pro and he kind of sits there and does this kind of jump around thing, you immediately have to take a step back because you want to stay on the same level or just in front of the guard. But what happens if you have this kind of spread, you create the seam between you. And that Josh could have got rid of the ball. He could have scrambled. A number of things can happen. This kind of thing happens pretty often if you're watching the game like I do, right up front.
Right.
It was a good trick.
Yeah.
And it's a hard trick to handle, but Morse has got to get depth. Gotcha.
Before we move on to what needs work, I want to address one play real quick, and that was the one that the announcers talked about, and it came up on Twitter a little bit today. And I just want to give the rules to the people that are listening, and you can affirm, confirm, or correct me if I'm wrong. But as it pertains to ineligible receivers downfield with the offensive line, the rule is that the offensive lineman cannot be more than a yard beyond the line of scrimmage unless they're engaged, right, with a defensive player actively blocking up into the point of the ball being thrown. So if we watch this play, and I'll pause it as soon as Josh lets it go, which is right there, his release is so fast. You look, and not every one of them, 3 of them are about 2.5 to 3 yards downfield. Now, this was the point where the announcer said the Bills need to be careful on these RPOs because the offensive linemen are getting too far downfield. This could be called at any point because they're ineligible receivers downfield. The problem is that's BS. That's bunk. It's not true. All 3 of these guys are engaged in a block at the point that the ball comes out, which is what the ref was looking at. He was actually down here on the bottom of the screen staring right at it. Yes? No?
Yeah, look, this will bite everybody in the butt too, anybody that runs this play, because what could happen is if the coverage is tighter and Josh holds the ball and immediately, all of a sudden, Darrell Williams is now he's not engaged, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I dropped one of the zebras right at this moment right here, and if Josh had to hold the ball, you're kind of screwed. But remember, the title of the play is RPO, run pass option, right? So the guys up front, they don't know whether the ball is going to get handoff to Singletary or Moss. So you're playing it like a run. Yeah. And the quarterback is reading it based on what kind of cushion that the DB is giving him, how it looks right on the free release or right quick on the release. Is this guy going to come open? That's why. Otherwise, the offensive lineman would be selling the run, but coming off and then stopping. Mm-hmm. So it looks to me like it's a 50-50, but you can't not block the run. You can't only go, okay, well now we got to stop here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is this cue? Because we saw on the Tannehill touchdown run. Obviously, it was Mario Addison. So Tannehill puts the ball out, right? RPO, I believe is what it was, or what the play was. Puts the ball out. Addison just chases Derrick Henry straight to the middle of the field, and you saw Tannehill tell his coach on the sideline. You could read his mouth almost, like he went this way and I went that way with the ball, and he was kind of laughing about it. What is the key? Is it just that one read on that end? Is it the only read he has? Like, what is Josh looking for there?
Well, see, that's the problem is the terminology. Everybody likes to say RPO because it sounds a lot cooler than saying zone read, but they're 2 different plays, right? So zone read is a run, is a dedicated run. You're either giving it or you're pulling it, right? If you're going to run RPO, that's run pass option. So they're really not used interchangeably. So the way it kind of diagrams is the quarterback is basically reading, he steps over here and his eyeballs are on the end. So we don't block the end, right? Mm-hmm. Now if the end crashes, if the end comes down the line of scrimmage, right? If he crashes down, then the quarterback pulls and runs out. But if the end plays upfield, then he hands the ball off and the seam is right in here.
I think that the sad part about that stupid play is had he handed the ball off, Henry scores.
Well, sometimes they got you. I mean, it's hard to defend when you're inside the 5 or 7 yard line or wherever the hell it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just recognizing. So the one where Josh threw it is an RPO. That play was a zone read.
Yeah.
And you can, that's a testament to the athleticism we see at the quarterback position. That's a play that was stolen from college. That Oregon ran that, 15 years ago.
Gotcha. So transitioning now to the work that needs to be done for this football team. We don't like the vernacular bad, so we've made it the work. What does this team need to work on? So for me, I'm struggling with the fact that the Bills allowed one rushing touchdown, and it's not because they played slouch running backs necessarily. They had some good teams in there that can run the football. They allowed one rushing touchdown this season. They allowed 4 in this football game. I know it's Derrick Henry, but I don't believe I'm not buying the narrative that Derrick Henry ate their lunch, that somehow he had the game of his life against him. He had 2 good plays, 2 good runs. One of them we're going to look at here in a second. And the other one, we can talk about it. I don't have the video for the other one. But by and large, the Bills kind of contained him if you remove those 2 plays. What is it? It's 90 something.
Yeah, I mean, you're parsing it out, which is what they're going to do. I mean, you have to parse it out, especially if you're coach. Look, we had 2 failures on the run. But what those 2 really successful runs, and the fact that it's Derrick Henry, who has a reputation for gaining yards and being tough to take down, that did open up their play action pass. So I agree. The narrative isn't really accurate that, he destroyed us if you parse it, which is how people like you and I look. But people who didn't watch the game and look at the stat sheet say, oh, wow, Derrick Henry just destroyed these guys.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns, 140 something yards. What were your feelings? Because I also was not overly happy with the defensive line play, just in general. You're talking about a guy coming in that's been sacked 20 times, 1 in every 10 dropbacks. They don't sack him once. What was your feeling when you saw that AJ Epinesa, in particular, was a healthy scratch in this football game?
Well, I think that was probably a play meaning a decision based on the fact that Derrick Henry's a big back, and their offensive line really played well. I mean, I went back and watched it. They're very good technicians, and I don't think that is really the place where we want Epinesa. Frankly.
First time this year that was the first time this season that they played well.
Yeah. That may be true. I'm talking more or less about the run game.
Yeah,
they did play well in pass protection too. Our guys didn't get free. Our plan wasn't strong enough, and we didn't execute it well enough. Even when we brought pressure, which was not very often, it wasn't very successful.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you. I mean, needs work. How do we play championship caliber up front with our front 4 in a championship game? Because make no mistake about it, tight games like this are championship type games, and when you are odds-on favorite to win your division and go deep in the playoffs, that's what people do. They play championship level against you, even when they're not championship caliber.
Right,
teams.
right.
So that needs work. Mentally, you've got to kind of redress. What could I do better? Josh Allen needs work. And everybody, I mean, people are throwing things at me right now. 74%, whatever it was. But the problem with the 74% is it could have been 80. He had a number of balls that were just kind of head scratchers to open guys that were incomplete balls. He had a number of opportunities to hit open guys in the flat that we talked about. I think 2 that really pop out. I didn't chart the game like I normally do, but that's the point. The championship mentality. If you're going to go deep and you're going to win the big one, Josh has to make those throws. So 74% is great, but at the loss of 3 more percentage points because of those throws, that's what we need. And he's got to figure that out up in here. Like you said, well, I try to get it all in one play here and there. That's him carrying too much burden.
Yeah.
Take what you can get. What else needs work? No, the offensive line still needs work. The run game needs work. I know it's a week off. It's a rest week, get healthy kind of thing, but whether that's run game philosophy or technical reps, it needs to get better. Josh needs to make those throws. The offensive line needs to get better. The defensive line. And as the offensive line gets better, the run game improves. So these combination blocks between center guard tackle, the sustaining of blocks, that can all get improved. And when that improves, then the run game improves.
when we're talking about this defensive line, and we'll pull up the play that, you know, a lot of people are talking about, but for different reasons, we're going to talk about just Greg Rousseau, who was right here on the end, and basically what happened here. And it was funny because after this play, he was getting coached up quite a bit, which alerted me to this concept and this idea as a fan that maybe he didn't do something right. But I think you have a different opinion. So I'm going to let this run here. And this is the long play from Derrick Henry. And you see Rousseau get crushed, and then Derrick Henry gets free. Now, we're not going to talk necessarily about the penalties, but
all right, can you freeze it right there?
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, this is an extension issue. So if you look, if we're playing gap control, you see the tight end there, right? So you've got Jordan Poyer out in space, and then you've got another support player outside wide as well. So if you're playing gaps, really,
that's going to be Levi Wallace is going to be out there to the right.
All right, Levi Wallace is out there. So if we're playing gap control, you just count gaps. Now, where I would agree with the coaching on this is you don't want to get washed down. If he can extend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to be able to do is manage your gap, but with full extension, because that gives you the opportunity to shed. So right now, when you run this play, you're going to see he's collapsed. So he doesn't have a chance. Freeze it when a couple, 3 or 4 steps in. So once his arms get collapsed, he has no way. So he looks like he's in good position here. He peaks now. Right, this is where you could say he shouldn't be peaking. He should be kind of maintaining that inside position, but with greater extension.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can shed either way. Now, in all likelihood, if he has that and he sheds, this might be a gain of 10 or 12 yards. He can slow down Derrick Henry at the line, but instead he doesn't get a hand on him.
Right.
But the mugging on 15 on Poyer, I mean, it starts early and it goes long. Now, I don't think the back judge right here is going to make this call from that distance. But in the next few steps, I feel like he should be coming up making that call, because right here, this is the shot that we looked at earlier. Right. Where he finally has a view of it. But the problem is, his eyes have gone somewhere else, the back judge.
Yeah, there's a moment here where he's like literally tackled and Poyer's reaching out for him. I think the question I have is what causes 87 to completely annihilate Rousseau? Like, he just crushes him at this point. And I don't know if it's because he tries to bend back.
No, I disagree with you. I mean, I don't think that's an annihilation or a crush.
Right.
I think,
you might be right. You might be right.
He gave up a little bit of his gap. He came in too quick, and he's just got to be a little bit more patient. I mean, patience is the key. And, this is Derrick Henry doesn't – it's interesting. I mean, he's a powerful guy, but he's a good reader too. So that's why a lot of, I'm going to say a lot of his plays, but some of his plays, the ones that you don't like when we run them, get stopped at the line because you're picking and choosing your gaps. So I don't ever think he really hits the line at, full speed like Thurman used to do. I mean, Thurman would take that, and he was at full speed, still 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He had his gap. He just didn't have himself in the right position. It's because he should have been kind of, in my opinion, I could be wrong, he should have been extended on the tight end.
Yeah.
And in a position where he probably got collapsed maybe half a yard more than he should have.
Gotcha. And then on the other one that I don't have the video for, which is basically where he just talk about that one, the other long run where he's out in space, right? And Derrick Henry's just like, bye-bye.
Yeah, so that was, I would have to go back and look at the play, but when we talked about it earlier, the question is that zone read? If that's zone read, it's a kiss me deadly, right? You either take quarterback or you take running back. But if they don't have a lot of zone read, you can't be coming upfield. You've got to skate down the line of scrimmage and stay flat. So I would say that was a far bigger error on Greg's part, if indeed that was the play, than the touchdown.
Well, what happened was, and it's hard to do this backwards, but like literally if Rousseau is out here, right, he's on that end, the whole entire line went this way.
Yeah, and he came upfield.
And he was out here by himself, standing up, and the gap was about that big. But
the problem was, if you go back and look at it, he actually came upfield a few steps.
Yes.
So when play goes away, you're supposed to, maybe be a half yard deep, but closing.
Right.
So once you get upfield, it doesn't matter how much you close because the lane is there already.
Gotcha.
So if you come upfield, play goes away, you gotta sit and then compress.
Gotcha. Last one that we're going to talk about as far as play goes and things that potentially need work is obviously, this is that play, right? The one that we want to talk about. And I know you want to talk about specifically just Deion Dawkins' footwork and then just some other stuff. So I'm going to let just this first part run. It's just melee. You really can't see anything, but you can really get a good look in the overhead, which is right here.
Yeah, well, I mean, Deion's technique isn't great, but if you look at the alignment here, Josh is looking at this film today and saying, why the hell didn't I go right? I mean, Darrell Williams is your best blocker. He's got a one technique, and in the end is head up to outside on Spencer Brown. So the natural soft spot should be, Morse right to Williams. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, this is an easy one. Whereas on the left side, Simmons is in the gap. This is a really, really, really hard block for Deion Dawkins. He doesn't help himself because he takes a bucket step. What does that mean? You either step underneath yourself or you step back. Right now, he's got to have a position. His feet are too much like this. His feet should be evened up a little bit more weight on his outside leg. So on the snap of the ball, what he needs to do is get his head across. I mean, it's really like you're a sacrificial lamb here. But you will have no luck. He doesn't impact Simmons at all because he doesn't get his head across the bow, and Simmons is going to be in there regardless. But if you can take a little bit off him, it doesn't help that Josh slips. I don't like his footwork here. To me, on this play, I'm sorry. Yell at me if you want. This is 70% on Josh Allen. He's got to get a foot or two right here. This is the point where you bury and go, and he hops and reads and then tries to restart and slips. I'm just not a fan. If it's 4th and 1, maybe that's a better play, but on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, you're not going to get that. Likely, you're not going to get that compression of this front like that.
You almost got to wonder, should he have gone around the backside of Tommy Sweeney at that point when he popped up? No, there.
I hate that. Those guys are too quick. They react too well. And now you got a tight end trying to block a guy who's a little bit faster. You say it looks like it now because the linebacker came in to support right behind Simmons, so it looked like Sweeney had a block. But you'd almost be better off running this as a true option, blocking down with Darrell pulling the guard. Sweeney could influence the linebacker outside, and you could pitch it. But if you're going to run a sneak, I'm sorry. And UCLA did this about 5 weeks ago against Fresno State. I almost had a heart attack. DTR did the same thing. He pulled back, except he went all the way outside the formation, lost a yard, and got decapitated. So, Josh, I'm sure he's saying, why the hell? And you look at the
here
positioning, the body positioning of the guys too. The guy in the nose and to the left side, their body weight are all going forward. They're coming forward, 93 or whatever his number is. He's in kind of more of a frog position. He doesn't look like he's coming off as hard. And this film right here represents what I'm saying.
Yeah, Simmons literally is about to catch Josh Allen. So like he literally just he dips inside Dawkins and rolls Dawkins while he's catching Josh Allen. And if you look to the right above, like between Brown and to your point, and Williams, all that real estate right there up in that corner.
Why is Spencer Brown even doing that? Right. So
why are they all crashing down?
No. So my point is, like, he realizes that he doesn't even have his guy. He doesn't even have to block his guy. He knows this is going up the middle. So he sees Josh coming inside, and he's going to do a Spencer Brown where he's going to try to fly over and mash the pile, which I think is brilliant. But even so, the two guys, stop the film right there. Look where Darrell Williams' guy is.
Yeah.
He's squatting on the goal line.
Yeah.
So
Darrell Williams won his rep. He's the only. Well, Morris didn't do too bad, but Darrell Williams won his rep. Literally, what does it?
But what you're forgetting is Josh Allen is a big, strong runner. Right. So if he heads right off of Morris's cheek, his right cheek, it's going to be hand here or shoulder here, pushing as well. Now Morse probably weighs 285, 295. Josh Allen weighs, 220, 230. They outweigh that group. And Darrell Williams pushing right there. There's the seam.
Yep. All right, so we got a super chat from Pam Adana. Pam, if you've got a comment that you would like to throw in there, let me know, or a question, and I will toss it up there. But we're running out of time. Jay Spence the King and Code of Conduct is coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. So, here's her question. So I'm going to throw this up here real quick. Thank you, Pam, for the comment or the question. How do we feel about the next 4 easier games and then face the Saints primetime? I almost wish our next game was tougher.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, and they're all tougher anyway. I mean, this is just, I hate to disagree with you, Pam. You've righted my ship so many other occasions in our conversations. I'm clearly happy being wrong talking to you. But it's, again, what we go back to and say, we got the easiest schedule. It's the top of the easiest schedule list. You still have to win those games with a target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And who cares if they do end up being easy games and we win 4 and we're going into the Saints? Confidence matters, right?
Yeah.
I was going to text you during the game last night. These are my text fingers. I was going to text you during the game last night where the momentum, which apparently some people think doesn't exist, was clearly the pendulum swung toward the Tennessee Tuxedos.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say, there's no momentum anywhere. It was obvious. You could feel it.
It's in my notes from last night. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I literally made a note and I talked about it last night. It was like you could feel it. You could feel the energy change. The demeanor of the Titans was different. The crowd was reacting different, and the Bills kind of were reacting different. We have another super chat.
Back to just real quick to close out Pam's question. You don't know which of those teams which is playing poorly is going to have a turnaround. I mean, those guys have pride too. Yeah. So I think, Pam, mentally, you got to approach every game as if you were playing Tennessee or Kansas City or the Chargers. Anybody that comes at us, you just have to imagine that this is their Super Bowl. We used to say that all the time my rookie year. Oh God, we're playing Indianapolis, but it's their Super Bowl.
That's right.
So we have to come back with the same attitude, the one that we should have started the season with. This is our Super Bowl. Every game is your Super Bowl.
Super good. Eric Farrell with the super chat. Eric, thank you so much for the super chat and being a part of the show. This is my new favorite show. John is salve for the soul of a Bills fan. I've never heard that phrase before.
Salve for the soul? You never heard that?
No. I've heard of chicken soup for the soul. I so appreciate how he feels the same pain we all do. Well, John is Bills Mafia. That is absolutely true. Any interest in coaching in the college of the pros, John?
Are you hiring? So I mean, we all get melancholy, right? I mean, every guy who's spent an extended time in Buffalo, especially from my generation, non-drought years, even though I started the drought, you definitely have to get right with any loss. And I think the best way to be a fan is get right with any win. And I think that's what our show is all about too. Even in the wins, we're looking at ways to get better and where you might be disappointed. I got to tell you, I would love to coach in college or the pros. That what I don't like is the idea of moving every 4.5 years, because that's typically what, coaches' lifespan looks like. There are rare occasions where coaches spend 6 to 10 years in one location, but how many coaches have been in one place for 10 years or more? I mean,
Tomlin's crew, right? Yeah, Tomlin's crew is about it. I mean, even Andy Reid got fired.
Yeah, you have to be able to live with that kind of thing, and then you relocate it. So I've talked to a number of coaches before, and a lot of Christmas parties, and sometimes you get to know the coaches' wives, and everybody kind of runs together as a pack, because when you get, all right, I get hired as the offensive line and coach in Buffalo. I'll take that. You get hired in Buffalo to be the offensive line coach, and you're kind of like, well, who am I going to make friends with that I'm not going to say goodbye to in 3.5 to 5.5 years?
Right.
So, you have to definitely have the right partner in life to make a decision to be a coach. And coaching hours can be onerous. They can be very, very long. Technology, I think, has made them better. And analysts and quality control coaching staff members have made it easier. But the amount of burden just getting through the film and developing game plans and things of that nature, would take coaches, into the 10 p.m. hour every day of the season.
Wow.
And that's a lot. Wave goodbye to your family, right? I got 4 kids. Now would be the time when I would start that, but now, look how old I am. My God.
You're a young pup.
Yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left before the code of conduct comes on. So we got to dip out of here. But when it comes to expectations, talk to us real quick, because you're the one that knows. What are the Buffalo Bills? What are the players and the coaching staff? What are they doing during this bye week coming off of this loss? Like what are they working on? What are they thinking about? What's the head check?
Yeah, it's hard to know what the schedule is, but they probably got through the film today. They probably said goodbye, show back up on Friday, and we'll do some abbreviated work. You can't wear guys out. It's a long season, so you got to give them that little bit of freedom to fly off and see their families, go home, do whatever they're going to do. So they could be back as early as Thursday for practice, maybe just 2 days off, 3 days off. I kind of get the feeling that McDermott would be like that. This is the year, right? So if you think there's value in truncating the time off for travel for guys, this would be the year to do it. What are they thinking? There's going to be some film review. There's going to be some hard conversations that people have with themselves and that coaches have with players. I think Andre Smith is probably thinking, oh my God, trade deadline's coming up. I'm probably part of a conversation. I had 2 holds that affected the game.
That hurt the team. One of them potentially lost the game because does he not hold on that Isaiah McKenzie touchdown run, like kickoff return for a touchdown? That could be the game right there.
That could be the game.
That could be the game.
Yeah, that was arguably some of the value that I brought to the Bills when I was there. I was a low penalty player. I started for 9 years in Buffalo, and I think I had 7 holding penalties.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah. I probably, if it were a stat, if anybody ever really cared and looked it up, I think probably for the number of games I played and the number of holding penalties I had, I'm probably the leader or the loser or whatever.
Close to the top, somewhere
so
at the top.
It's just as important. Those plays are huge. That was a devastating. And then, everybody who watched it on TV saw the flag.
Yep.
And I just closed my eyes. And by the way, we lost the game because of my surgeon friend in Iowa, David Cadigan. The last 11 games that he's gone to, the Bills are like 4-7. So Dave Cadigan, if you're listening out there, no more traveling. Sorry.
I also wore the same shirt that I wore to the home opener that we lost to against the Steelers, which is a brand new shirt that I bought 2 weeks before the season started. So my partially
you're gonna have to put paper clips or safety pin, right? So this is the shirt, or you take that damn shirt and you put it in a Ziploc and you put it in the attic until you put yourself like a little Google Calendar reminder to take it out like February 15th. Start wearing it again. It's all your damn fault.
If they lose one more game, like to the Dolphins, I'm gonna have to pull out the Bajorquez shirt because I think I was 7-1 or 8-1 in the Bajorquez shirt. But we got to get out of here, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, brought to you by Q42. What is Q42? Well, Q42 is a all-natural, all-Western New York barbecue sauce, KC barbecue, and Carolina Gold. All the ingredients are right here from Western New York. You can, if you're looking for some barbecue sauce, it's really good. John and I can both tell you. Go over to Q42BBQ.com. Use the promo code Fina Show. Get 15% off of your order. It's super good. Go there and support them. Buffalo Zone 42. Buffalo's on the 42nd parallel. That's where the 42 comes in. So Q42. Any last comments?
Yeah, I just love doing the show. I hope everybody out there is enjoying it. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for downloading the podcast and listening while you drive. Hopefully I'm bringing a different perspective, making Joe think outside the box and correcting some of his ridiculous thoughts. And look, ever hopeful. We got a team that we can root behind, mourn the loss for maybe 5 more minutes, and prepare for the next one. Prepare your fandom for the next one. Hey, Bills Mafia, let's go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.